Welcome to Mr. Jinx's class. Today we'll be studying Genesis 46 and 47. In the previous chapters, we learned that Joseph's brothers came to Egypt once again. And during their visit, they had brought Joseph, the Lord of Egypt, all kinds of gifts in order to appease him so that Joseph wouldn't kill them. And remember, they were terrified when they went to Joseph because they had found all of the money that they were supposed to use for buying grain inside their sack. And they didn't know how it got there. But Joseph had put it there before they had left Egypt to go back to Canaan. And so they were terrified. They thought, man, maybe Joseph will think, or the Lord of Egypt will think, that we stole all of this money and didn't actually pay for any of the grain that we got. Oh no, what are we gonna do? And they were so scared when they went to Joseph's house. He invited them to his house when they had come the second time in order to have a meal with them. He had restored Simeon back to them and let him come and join them during the meal. And when he got there to actually meet them, they offered up their gifts to Joseph, and he received their gifts and sat them in order from oldest to youngest. And they were like, what is the meaning of this? And after the meal, he revealed himself to his brothers and let them see that it was indeed him. It was their brother. And he told them, please go up to back to Canaan and bring my dad here so that I can see him. And so they did. Joseph provided them with wagons and different things to help them to bring all their stuff and all their people back down to Egypt. Now, that's where this story begins. So, all of the brothers, they went up and they told their dad, Dad, Joseph is alive. And he almost didn't believe them. He was like, what? All of those years, I have believed Joseph is dead, and now you're going to come to me right now and tell me that he's not dead, that he's the ruler of all of Egypt? No, I can't believe it. And they're like, Dad, just come outside and look for yourself. Look at all the wagons that he has sent in order to help us to go back to Egypt with all of our things. He wants us to move from Canaan to Egypt. And he's like, no, I don't know about that. The Lord God has said, he made a covenant with me that we are supposed to live here in the land of Canaan, that this is the land that he's given to us. And now you're telling me that just because of this famine and all of this drought that we're supposed to go to Egypt? I don't think so. My faith is in God. I believe we're supposed to stay here. And he's like, but look, Joseph loves you and he wants to see you. What? Joseph's not alive. He died. Just look at that. Look at this. Look at all of the things he sent for us to go. He looked at it and he thought to himself, maybe Joseph is alive. Maybe this is real. Maybe this is actually true. If Joseph is alive, I would like to see him before I die. And he's starting to get excited. Wow, my son is alive. All this time I thought he was dead. Is this real? Okay, let's begin packing up our things, but I don't know if I'm going to move all of us down. Let me think about this. Well, nighttime came and they all went to bed. And that night the Lord appeared to him and said, Jacob, do not worry. I will go down to Egypt with you. Do not be afraid to leave the land of Canaan to go and dwell in the land of Egypt. I will bring you there and I will make your family great. I will multiply your family and provide for you in Egypt. And then I will bring your family back into the land of Canaan. Do not worry. I will be with you. And Jacob woke and he was like, wow, the God of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, have has visited me in the night and has given me hope that this is his will, that I should go to Egypt. So he makes a sacrifice to God for a blood sacrifice for his sins and the sins of his family. And they all pack up all of their things and go down to Egypt. Now, the number of all of his family and everybody that was going down to live in the land of Egypt was 70 people in all. And all of his children had children. And they had family. And some of their children even had children. For example, Jacob, he had twins, Perez and Zara. Oh, sorry, Judah, I apologize. Judah had twins named Perez and Zara, and they even had children at that time. So these kids were growing up, they were having families, and they had a massive amount of people all living together in tents, and they were living in the same area, and they were all people who were herdsmen. They were taking care of animals like sheep and goats and camels. And so they get all of their things together. They get all of their goats and sheep, all their livestock, and they get all of it together, and they go down to Egypt. And when they get there, Joseph hears about the arrival of his father, and the amount of excitement is just overwhelming to Joseph. He had not seen his father for many years now, and finally his father has come from the land of Canaan to dwell close to him in the land of Goshen. And he's just so excited. Wow, Dad, my father has come. He's here. I'm going to get the opportunity to see him. Oh, and so he got on his chariot and he left the main city in Egypt to go to Goshen. And when he got there, he saw his father. He just began to weep and cry because of the happiness and sadness all mixed together in his heart. He ran up to his father and just put his face on his shoulder and began to weep and cry. And they cried together for a good long time before they were even able to say anything to each other, because they had missed one another for so long. And he told his dad and his brothers, I'm going to go and tell Pharaoh that you have arrived. And when he hears this news, he'll want to meet you. And when he meets you, please tell him that you guys are herdsmen. And because you are herdsmen and you have livestock and animals, it's actually an abomination to the Egyptians that they intermingle with you, that you guys are together. You guys can't be together. You have to be separated. So when you tell him that you're a herdsman, just tell him that you've been herdsmen ever since you were kids, and your fathers were herdsmen just like you. And so you guys are all, that is your occupation. All of you have been herdsmen your entire life. And he'll let you live here in Goshen, because this is an area that still has grass and places for sheep and goats to graze and eat. This will be a great place for you guys to live. It's pretty close to the Nile River, and it's close also to the ocean. You guys can go up to the ocean sometimes, and still there's enough water in this area to provide for the grass of the fields. So please stay here. I'll go back and talk to Pharaoh, and 5 of you should go with me. And Dad, I'm really confident that he'll want to meet you. So Joseph told his dad and 5 of his brothers to go with him down to Egypt to meet Pharaoh. So Joseph, he comes into the presence of Pharaoh and says, Pharaoh, my family has come down from the land of Canaan to live in Goshen, and I would love for you to meet them. He said, please bring them in. So Joseph first brings in his 5 brothers, and the king of Egypt, the Pharaoh, says, what is your occupation? And they say, oh, Lord Pharaoh, we are herdsmen, just as our fathers before us were herdsmen, and we take care of sheep. And he says, okay then, you will live in the land of Goshen, and you will have the best of the land, and there you shall live and dwell, and may you be blessed. Go. And they said, yes, thank you, my Lord. And they left. And then Pharaoh invited Jacob to come into the room. And when Jacob came into the room, he is really old. He's actually 130 years old. 130 years old. So he comes into the room, and just imagine this old man, but yet he's still pretty strong for an old man, because he's, a herdsman, and he takes care of and manages his entire family. And here he comes walking into the presence of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And the king of Egypt asks him, how many are the years of your life? Which is another way of saying, how old are you? And Jacob says, 130 are the years of my life. They have been short and filled with sadness and grief and hardship. My years are much shorter than the years of my fathers who have come before me. The years of their life were much longer, and the Lord had blessed them much more than my own. And then something really remarkable happens. Pharaoh says to him, you can live here and dwell in this land, and may you be blessed. But you know what happens? Jacob blesses Pharaoh. He puts his blessings on Pharaoh, which is really significant because the greater always blesses the inferior, the one who's lesser. So the greater blesses the lesser. And because he is the one who received the promises from God, and he was the one who was called by God, given the covenants of God, he was able to bless Pharaoh, the king of all of Egypt. Then he left Pharaoh and went to live in the land of Goshen. Now, during that time, the famine was only about 2 years in. That means 2 years had passed, and there were still 5 more years to go. And it was so severe in the land that people began to come with their money and saying, oh, we're running out of money. And they did. They had used all their money to buy grain from the land of Egypt. People begin to come and say, what can we do to buy grain if we have no money? And he says to them, Joseph says to them, you are now allowed to bring your animals and livestock and things like that to trade for grain. And so they do. The people begin bringing their animals and everything that they have, and they're just like, oh, please give us grain. Thank you so much. And they take it away. But after a year passes, they come back and they're like, well, we have used all of our money, all of our animals. The only thing we have left is our land and ourselves to trade for grain. Can we please, what can we do? Can we please give our land to you and also ourselves as servants to the Pharaoh in order to get grain? And Joseph says, yes, you can. And so he takes their land in exchange for grain and gives them grain and seeds to plant in their fields. Now, just to let you know, because the land of Egypt is on the Nile River, there's still water that flows up the Nile River to the ocean. So there's still some places in Egypt where you can grow things. And so he gives them seeds and says, go, I want you to go and plant these seeds, and 1/5 of all of the things that you grow will belong to Pharaoh. You have to give it to him. That is a law now, because you and your land belong to Pharaoh. You are his servant. And they said, yes, thank you so much. You have saved our life this day by letting us give you ourselves and our land as payment for this grain and these seeds. And he says, go. And they went and they planted, and they were able to harvest a 1/5 of the crops to give to the Pharaoh. And then after this, it comes to find out that Jacob, he lived in the land for 17 years. 17 years. So this is after now the famine has already passed. All of the land belongs to Egypt and to Pharaoh now. All the people in this region now actually are his servants. And now 17 years after the famine began, and after 17 years after Jacob came down to live in Egypt, he starts to get sick. And he's 147 years old. He's starting to get sick. And his brothers call for Joseph. And this is where our story will pick up next time.